Awesome. Well, first and foremost, Amanda, thank you to you and the ATA for providing this space and the opportunity again to, try to enrich in our success coaching field here at Wayne State, and as well as, again, try to provide some useful tools and tips that you guys can take into your practices with your students. So, with that being said, this session is titled Mindset Mastery. So, to set you all on the right course so that you'll understand what we have in front of us today, I wanted to do a little warm up. And this is something that some advisors that are part of the UAC, they might have gotten a preview of this before, but I want to share it with the entire group as a whole. So I'm going to ask you guys a simple question here. How do we go from to do to done? And so feel free to pop off and again, you can come off mic and see if you can answer that question for me. How do we go from to do to done?
Like develop an action plan.
Well, that's pretty close. It's a little bit deeper than we're gonna go with that, but tell me a little bit more.
In terms of the steps, the requirements, what's needed from you, what's realistic, what's practical.
Tell me about what you see on screen here. Are there any differences that stick out to you? To do to done? What did we add?
Letter N, letter E.
Oh yeah. Erica, you figured it out. Crack the code here. So, in order to go from to do to done, we added that NE. What does the NE stand for? Anybody want to take a guess before I reveal?
You got me trying to think of the periodic table. What element is Ne?
You know what? I'm not sure. I
I don't
wanted to
think so.
say neon, but I'm pretty sure that that's wrong. So,
Okay.
been a while since I had a chemistry class. Well, I'll save you a little bit of trouble here in guessing. In order to go from to do
Absorption.
to done, we added the NE, and that NE stands for the necessary effort. That's it. Nothing more, nothing less. And this is a simple framework for how anyone, you don't have to be a superstar, a high performer in order to go from to do to done. All you have to do is apply the necessary effort in whatever it is that you're doing in order to move forward and accomplish that task. So, with that being said, as Amanda mentioned before at the introduction of this session, this is a credentialing course. You need to attend 5 out of the 6 of these sessions in order to become a certified success coach. So, what I'm going to ask of you all today is that we all give the necessary effort in participating and engaging with this learning exercise. And I think that we'll all come out on the other side better for it. Sound good? We get a thumbs up in the chat. I'll take it. Let's move forward. All right, everyone. Good afternoon and welcome to Mindset Mastery. This is an ATA success coaching session number 2. And again, what this is focused on is changing our minds in order to accomplish great things. We have an agenda for today that consists of the learning outcomes, which I'll reveal in just a moment. We have a quick session 1 recap to cover what we learned in the PERMA-based coaching framework, positive momentum. So we're going to cover a couple cover a couple concepts that we learned in session number 1, and then we'll dive into some incremental theory. Our core learning today is going to consist of a growth mindset versus a fixed mindset and how to recognize the signs of either or, as well as we'll talk a little bit about self-regulated learning. We'll go from there and move into effective praise and some of those techniques that can be applied through process-oriented coaching. And then we'll reflect and close down this training for today. All right, on to our learning outcomes. So this lesson today about mindset mastery is about understanding the concept of a growth mindset and its influence on academic development for students and how that can help them persist as well. The second learning outcome that I want you guys to take away from here today is to be able to recognize some of the language and behaviors of a fixed versus growth mindset in advising or your coaching conversations. And then lastly, we want to be able to apply these coaching strategies that build that student self-efficacy, reflection, and persistence by connecting the effort, strategies, and outcomes of the student life cycle. A quick foreword is that this session is not, and I repeat, this is not about teaching students to think positively. That would be a waste of yours and my time. We're not here to do that. We want to look more strategically at the student so that we can promote growth. So this is about teaching coaches to intentionally shape how students interpret the challenges that they face, the effort that's necessary, as well as those setbacks and being able to normalize failure throughout this process. And in doing so, in alignment with these learning outcomes, we want to be able to align these concepts and theories with the NACADA core competencies. We're going to support retention and persistence work within our advising practices, as well as we're going to give success coaches and advisors immediately usable language that they can take into their student interactions. Before I move forward into the more conceptual part of what we're going to do here today, I have a quick acknowledgement. So I work here at Wayne State as a success coach. I am not a psychologist by any stretch of the imagination. So I think it's important that I note that the theories and the concepts that we're going to be discussing here today should be taken and treated purely as a review of literature. And that literature is relevant to the field of psychology, but can be applicable to higher education. So that's just a little quick acknowledgement before we move into anything, before you go thinking that you need to go and peer review me. I do not have any publications that with my name on it that, are in support of any of these theories. So just keep that in mind. And again, let's try to make this a productive session. All right, so let's move into the recap of session 1. Who can tell me what they learned for those who attended session number 1? Who can tell me what you learned about the PERMA model? Feel free to pop off and, turn your mic off and join in. You don't have to you don't have to tell me the entire concept of PERMA, but give me a letter and a takeaway that you learned from the PERMA model in session 1.
I'll say for the meaning piece, helping advisees connect what they're doing in the here and now to the larger purpose of what they're pursuing.
Oh, yeah. Thank you, Sean. That is a really big part of the PERMA model itself, because again, Dr. Seligman is all about the reason he introduced this concept is because it's about promoting a flourishing lifestyle. So again, the way that that applies to higher education is students have a need to flourish in what they're doing here. They need to understand how this education relates to their personal and career motivations and where they want to go, some of the impact that they want to make in society after they gain this newly found knowledge and education and skills. Um, as it relates to meaning, man, I actually have an example of myself. So recently and still currently, I'm undergoing a master's program, industrial and organizational psychology. So I think that I'm at a point now where it really excites me when I see different little things, or I go to a restaurant and I see things in action where I'm like, oh my goodness, this would be a great opportunity for a job analysis. You know, you want to look at how things flow within that workplace and what could be done better in order to become more efficient. So I'm starting to see that everywhere. And I know my wife's got to be a little bit tired of it at this point. You know, I talk her head off whenever we're not here, but in recognizing and making meaning of how my program relates to the outside world, there's a show that I used to watch and think nothing of it. It was purely entertainment to me. The show being Bar Rescue. Oh my goodness. I pulled my wife into the living room one day when I caught this on because I had been sitting there for maybe about 20 minutes or so watching it. And I thought to myself, I'm like, wow, this is an IO show. This is industrial organizational psychology at its finest. And it's just, again, it's tailored to the restaurant space, but I'm seeing all those different practices again that, are human resource related, organizational change related. Oh my gosh, man, it really hit me that, again, you can relate your education to pretty trivial things out in the outside world that you otherwise may not have recognized before. And so again, that making meaning of your education is a really big part of PERMA. And again, I find joy in that. I really do. It excites me in a way that again, I look forward to watching the show because I can learn more about how, okay, maybe this would be a good way to conduct a consultation if I were ever in this space. So meaning is a very big part of PERMA. I see some comments here that I'm actually not able to.
I was going to say you got a lot of people who are with you and watching that show in the chat.
Oh my gosh.
Jessica also said recognizing small wins as an example of accomplishment.
Absolutely.
Hmm.
Yep, that's true. Jessica, you know very well about accomplishment as someone who just completed a graduate degree themselves too. You've experienced that accomplishment that again, you're able to apply what you've learned in what you're doing now. The positive emotion side, just to cover PERMA piece by piece, element by element, positive emotion deals with how students experience joy in what they're doing. So this can be things outside of just the educational material that they're getting, but things that they do to care for themselves as well too. Um, Having a hobby is really important because again, you need something to break up the monotony of going to class Monday through Friday. The engagement consist of getting into your flow. You want to be able to immerse yourself in what you're doing again, because that's what is going to allow your brain to think more critically and you can again connect greater meaning with what you're learning. Positive relationships is a little bit self-explanatory. This is about making those meaningful connections with others. And again, you can do so within your educational environment by joining those core study groups, working within your cohort, and again, building those relationships with people who are in a similar field as you that again may be able to provide a little bit of additional knowledge, maybe some support and mentorship that would again otherwise promote your growth. Meaning we already covered as well as accomplishment. So we feel good about the PERMA model from session one, folks. Can we move on? All right. It's awesome. Thank you all for being engaged in this. So another theory that we covered in session one was the self-determination theory. And so this one is introduced by DC and Ryan, self-determination is all about the human's three basic needs, that being a need for competence, being effective in what they're doing, what they're dealing with within their environment. Humans need autonomy, or rather, excuse me, warriors need autonomy. They need to be able to feel confident in the decisions that they make about their education, as well as how those decisions will influence future outcomes. So the autonomy piece is really big for me, at least, but again, autonomy is going to decide whether that student chooses to stay up all night studying or not. That it could be a situation where a student decides that I don't need to show up for every single class. I understand the material. And so that right there is an area where, again, as a coach, we can foster better habits. But again, influencing that autonomy in their decision making is a really big part of self-determination, again, too, because we want to ultimately empower students to make the right choices. As well as another basic need for students would be that relatedness. And again, this is a little bit self-explanatory, but it's having that close relationship with others, being able to trust others and confide in them. Seeking help is another big part of the relatedness, which we'll actually get into a little bit deeper as we move into the self-regulation part of this training here. But relatedness is all about having a close connection with others. Now, self-determination is more of a foundational layer for students. It's what really helps lay the groundwork for self-efficacy itself. Now, self-efficacy, as we cover it in session number 1, is to be looked at as a situational experience for individuals. So again, you may not feel as self-efficable in everything that you do, but it's one of those things where, again, gaining the experience, having vicarious experiences through others, and seeing the behaviors that you may need to model in order to accomplish something, having a mentor or someone there to provide social persuasion, which would be that encouragement that we as success coaches and advisors can provide for students, as well as the physiological feedback of the individual too, being able to normalize the emotions that they're feeling when faced with a challenge or a task that they may not be sure if they can complete, but again, they have to try. So again, those are things that make up self-efficacy. Those are the four main components of it that Albert Bandura introduced. And so again, you can see that those flow into a sense of self-efficacy, which again will influence the behavior and performance of this student. Does anyone have any questions regarding self-efficacy, self-determination? All right. This is going to come back later. All right. So this is what we're all here for. This is an ATA success coaching seminar. And so it's only right that I ask you, what is a success coach's job anyway? Feel free to pop off your mic and take a guess. What
I,
is a
I would
coach's job?
I would think part of it would be empowering a student to independence.
Okay, I like that. Anybody want to build off of that?
To help students succeed.
Okay, I like that as well. Thank you, Robert.
Evaluating progress towards goals.
Okay, very nice. Thank you, Michaela.
I think it's
So
Reflecting
reflecting, that's
on
another
what's
really big
working,
part.
what's not working, how can they move forward?
Mm-hmm.
guessing resource referral and recommendations.
That help seeking. Yeah, absolutely. But to put it simply, a success coach's job is to produce winners in education. That's what we're here to do. We're here to produce winners. They came here, they want to get that degree. They want to have a enriching life and a fulfilling career. So as a success coach, we're here to produce winners in that regard. Make sense? Thumbs up in the chat. All right. So I'm not sure exactly where I am on the camera, but I may be blocking a little bit of our graphics here, but a major piece of inspiration for this mindset mastery training came from the author Carol Dweck. And so she is actually the one who introduced what incremental theory is. There's been a lot of empirical research about growth mindsets, but none have come quite close to defining it in a way that Carol Dweck did, especially in her novel Mindset: The New Psychology of Success. It's a really good read. So I do recommend that. But incremental theory consists of that belief that an individual's abilities as well as their intelligence can improve through effort and dedication. That's the definition. Can anyone think of how incremental theory would be useful in higher education? Think about this in coaching terms. Where could incremental theory be applied?
Well, if a student has some early classes that they don't do as well as they'd like to, there's always hope, and we can kind of help provide that hope that they can improve. That those initial results don't have to define their whole college experience.
I like what you said there, Tom. You mentioned about the initial results not necessarily having to define the outcome. It's a really big part of what growth mindset is, which we're going to hit more on that a little bit later. Would anybody like to build off of what Tom said there?
Think of as students are transitioning into the university, like redefining who they are as a learner, as a student, and knowing that you may not have been the best student in your, high school years, but as you're transitioning into a university setting, you have an opportunity to redefine and refresh who you are as a student.
Absolutely. Thank you, Zach. It's about having that adaptability to your environment. I mean, think about Charles Darwin when he mentioned survival of the fittest. Well, this setting here that we're in with academia it's no different. It's a situation where, again, not everybody does this for a reason. I mean, you have to commit to a situation with this, and you have to provide that necessary effort and find meaning in what you're doing, again, to keep you persistently coming back until you get what you want here, which should be the degree that leads to the career. Um, that's the biggest piece of incremental theory that I can give you guys. Again, it's about being adaptable for students. We're going to take a look at how there are two conflicting mindsets that will ultimately lead to how incremental theory plays out with the student. But those two conflicting mindsets, growth versus fixed mindsets. Now, according to Carol Dweck, those challenging situations can be catastrophic for folks with a fixed mindset because the implication that they do not already have those skills or the intelligence that's necessary to complete a task or an assignment in this case, they believe that there's no chance for improvement. Your SOL, there's no way to win this situation. Now, the opposite of this would be the growth mindset. And again, that's about having that belief that you can gain the knowledge and the skills necessary to succeed wherever you are. And that is what makes every challenge a learning opportunity. We as coaches are here again to help foster that growth. And again, we should be getting students that ultimately view these challenges that they're facing each semester, each class as a learning opportunity. Relating back to a little bit how my program is going, and again, I'm telling you this just to make this a little bit more relatable. You don't need a FERPA release for what I'm about to tell you, but I experienced some pretty highs and lows throughout this master's program. I graduated from undergrad in 2021. I was out of the academic pipeline for approximately 3 years. So I started the master's program in the fall of 2024. First semester, I'm not going to say it was a breeze, but it went very smoothly for me. I felt like I was fully ready to embrace this challenge. I meant to be here. Um, and again, there was nothing that was going to stop me from completing the mission. Fast forward to winter 2025. The program is now progressively more challenging. And they told us to of course expect that before we even started the program. They said, hey, the first 2 semesters or so are really just to warm you up to what we'll eventually be doing. That winter 25, I'm taking research methods as well as a psychometrics course. Does anyone here know what psychometrics are? You want to take a guess? Psychometrics are all about testing. It's the testing of cognitive abilities, aptitudes, as well as the numbers that explain the statistics behind those scores. It is not for the faint of heart. Psychometrics kicked my butt. I failed my midterm. I thought to myself, what am I going to do? Well, I had 2 options. I could either withdraw and wait until the class would be offered again next winter, which would, oh man, that would have severely hindered my plan, essentially. But it was on the table because again, you fail that midterm, it's really hard to come back. And option 2 would have been to seek help. First thing that I did once I received that grade, after the panic wore off, I met with my professor and we sat for office hours and we developed a plan um, about how the rest of this term could and should go if I were to successfully complete the course. And I think one really big piece of that stood out to me is that she never once spoke to me as if, again, she had given up for me and given up on me and that there was no chance to make things right and pass this class. You have to have at least a B or 3.0 within your program for a graduate program. But again, sitting there way behind the 8 ball, she never once told me that, hey, this is just, it's not going to happen. I think that maybe you should drop this class. Instead, we outlined a plan for the remainder of the semester. She told me, if you're going to stay in this class, this is what you need to do. I knew that I had a couple assignments that would really help me, but she's like, hey, come time for the final, you need this on the exam. I did everything in my power for that remaining 8 weeks to pass that class. And it took a lot. I mean, again, I didn't have any time to feel sorry for myself. I just knew that again, there was a goal to be accomplished here. And so that having demonstrated a growth mindset in this situation, okay, I know what didn't go well. What can I do to correct my course? Whereas, again, if I were to look at that experience from a fixed mindset perspective, I would have said, wow, I'm terrible at statistics. I don't understand these concepts. So, therefore, I shouldn't pass this class and I'm not going to. Does anyone have an experience, maybe similar, possibly even vicarious that you know of where again that growth or fixed mindset has come into play? Who would like to share?
I'll share.
Talk to me.
So it was my first class in the master's program, and somebody may have heard this in the other session, but the I submitted my like my proposal for my project. And the instructor reached out to me on a Saturday afternoon
Wow.
around 3 or 4 o'clock and said, "Can you talk?" And I was like, "Oh boy, oh boy, like I'm in trouble. I don't know what to do. I, I don't know if this is for me." And she worked through it where she wanted to understand exactly where I was coming from. She wanted to know my past experiences. She knew I hadn't been to college, even though working in higher education for many years. And she worked on a plan for me, and we set some goals. I redid my proposal, and it was her feedback only. Thank goodness. But she, at the end of that conversation, she's like, "You got this." And that pushed me forward.
Wow.
Otherwise, I would have thought, I don't know if this is for me. I can't do this. But from then, I knew what I had to do. In my next step, I went right to the writing tutor. So
Absolutely.
that was,
Thank you for
and
sharing.
she didn't even mention that, but I knew I had to do something to be successful. And it wasn't easy, as a success coach. Like, I'm so embarrassed to reach out for help, right? We think we're success coaches. Oh my goodness. And I share that with students all the time, about seeking help in those resources to be successful. Don't be afraid.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's a very valuable experience that you had there, and thank you for sharing, JC. Um, but you said something really important right there. Your professor said, "Hey, you've got this." That's the type of encouragement that students need oftentimes. It's just having that belief that someone knows that because they may not know it themselves, but having someone there that is in your corner can make a very large difference. And so, again, it can be a tool for remotivation, but again, that course correction and being more strategic in your accomplishment. See, we had a couple folks popping off in the chat. Hmm. So, Margaret, you mentioned the power of yet is something I think of, and I think it comes from the same source. I can't do this yet. I don't understand this yet. I'm not good at this yet. But reframing this for students is helpful to build resilience. Absolutely. It's almost like you've taken this training before. The power of yet is important because that right there reinforces to students that, hey, there's room for improvement. I'm not there yet. And that's actually a really big part of chapter 8, where Carol Dweck mentions in her novel about mindset, is the power of yet in fostering um, effort in students. Because again, there's certain language that we may unintentionally use that signifies different things to students by, again, saying, oh, well, you'll get them next time, or you're so smart. Things like that that we say just to make people feel better. We don't intentionally realize that that can do more harm than good. So yet is another very powerful word as a tool, again, framing it for the student that, hey, there's more work to be done. I have to build on what I currently have now. And so again, that is how you foster that growth mindset right there. The power of yet. Thank you for contributing that, Margaret. Let me see what we've got here. Sean mentioned that he teaches his daughter when she says, I can't do it. You can do, you can't do it what? She rolls her eyes and says, yet. See? So it seems like that's a pretty common concept right there that you guys are aware of. And again, I suggest that you utilize it when possible. Try to catch yourself and just take a moment to pause before you try to provide a little bit of sympathy for someone who is in a situation like that. Use that yet. Erica mentions seeking help, especially within a highly competitive major and curriculum, may carry a stigma or a sign of weakness to seek assistance, but we are most effective when you are not isolated, rather working in tandem and fully engaged in didactic experiences. We must maintain student momentum while noting self-efficacy. Well said. Well said. So, Erica, we're actually going to mention a little bit within the self-regulate learning portion of this training about how, again, that help-seeking behavior is going to be a really big indicator for individuals in fostering that growth mindset and accomplishing those goals that they set out to. So, I have a diagram here about how the two mindsets play out within the body. So on the left, excuse me, my left, your right, is going to be the fixed mindset, which inherently believes that intelligence is static. It doesn't change. This leads to a desire to look smart and therefore the tendency to, when it comes to challenges, they avoid them. When faced with an obstacle, they may give up much more easily with that fixed mindset. When it comes to demonstrating effort, they see it as fruitless or worse. They're not good at receiving criticism and they can ignore the useful feedback whenever given to them. As well as the view of others, they feel threatened by the success of others with a fixed mindset. And so as a result, they may plateau early and achieve less than their full potential. All of this confirms a deterministic view of the world. It's determined by how I perform. And if you're not performing well, you get the point. Whereas again, a growth mindset, that intelligence can be developed. And this leads to a desire to learn, which again is a really big piece. It's a really difficult way to teach a desire for learning, but there are things that we can do in order to try to promote it as best that we can. But when it comes to challenges for a growth mindset, you embrace them. When running and facing with an obstacle, you persist in the face of a setback. When it comes to giving effort, you see effort as a path to mastery. And that right there relates to the first and most important element of self-efficacy is having those mastery experiences, doing something over and over and over again until you get it right. So that effort as a path to mastery is something that people with a growth mindset, that's what they demonstrate. They learn from criticism and they're receptive to it. It's going to make me better. So I'm going to listen to you with open ears. The success of others, they find those lessons as well as the inspiration of success in others too. They see folks that they want to model after, so they may observe things and take parts of their game that they would like to add to theirs. I know that I'm somebody who, again, man, inspiration can become infectious. I see colleagues or even, oh my gosh, there have been many influences throughout my time here as a warrior that I see different advisors doing things like Jessica, for instance. She is always sharing different strategies and techniques that she's come up with her team, and she's using it to work with her students. And I'm like, wow, you did all that? Oh my gosh. And so those are things that again allow me to help tailor my game. Or even, I'll mention someone who is no longer with us with the advisor community, but a Denise Thomas, who again, she was my ATA liaison. And so we spent a lot of time together early on when I first started here. And she showed me the ropes. But again, she inspired me to, again, learn the institutional system itself and apply it to how I conduct my success coaching meetings. Sure, she was a supplemental advisor, but there was a lot that I could take from her that, again, having the knowledge of different policies or courses, that helped me ultimately. And so, again, having that growth mindset as a result, you can reach ever higher levels of achievement. All this gives them a greater sense of free will. And that relates to self-determination and the autonomy piece in that theory that we've covered in session one. But again, that free will, being able to do what you want, but feeling comfortable in the decision that you're making is the right one. So those are two mindsets that, again, Carol Dweck mentions in her book about mindsets, fixed versus growth. Different pathways lead to different outcomes. So we've come to the first activity of this session. This is going to be a fixed versus growth language sort. So what we're going to do, there's just a few statements over there, but we're going to sort these into growth or fixed mindset based off of what you guys think. So just pop off your mics and I'll read these statements to you, and you guys are going to help me determine whether they demonstrate a fixed mindset or a growth mindset. Ready? Go. I'm just not a math person.
Fixed.
Fixed.
Correct. That is a fixed mindset statement. Okay, this strategy didn't work, but what could you try next?
Growth.
Growth.
Mhm.
Oh yeah, that's a growth statement. I failed the exam. I'm terrible at biology.
Fixed.
Fixed.
That is a fixed mindset statement. How about writing improves with revision and feedback? Would you like me to refer you to a resource here on campus?
Growth.
Growth.
You guys are fantastic. It's almost like you've had this training before. All right. So actually, I'm going to step back one moment just to do a little bit of reflecting on that exercise. Are there any patterns that you all noticed about those statements, fixed versus growth?
Fixed tends to be more negative. Growth is a little more open and positive.
Okay. Thank you, Erica. Would anybody like to build off of that?
I would say the fixed ones are like I am statements. So it's like, I don't know what words I'm trying to use, but like they're associating this with who they are as a person, whereas the other ones are more so like looking at bigger picture.
Yeah, that's well said right there. The fixed mindset again is what I have and I currently possess, the knowledge, skills, intelligence. This is what I'm gonna have moving forward. This is who I am. That's who I'm gonna be. If it's not working, I'm just not good at it.
This is like
That's a
a
fix.
random kind of related thing, but in my internship, we talked a lot about shame this past year, and shame is like being disappointed or embarrassed of something that you are, whereas like guilt is something that you've done. And I feel like the fixed are more shame, whereas the other ones would be more like guilt. Like it's just something that happened that we can come back from, whereas the other ones are labeling the person as I'm not a math person or I am a failure.
I love that, Michaela. Thank you for sharing. But yeah, I mean that is a really big distinction there too. Again, if we're looking at this from a perspective of fixed versus growth language, I mean, I think that you said that really well. Which of these statements sound supportive but actually limit the student? So just speaking to the growth statements, do any of these sound supportive but actually may limit the student if you said it to them?
Maybe the last one that says writing improves with revision and feedback because it doesn't provide anything more, any guidance, anything further. Like, okay, with revision and feedback, but the person wouldn't know what revisions to make and what
Absolutely.
directions to take.
Yeah, thank you, Kimberly. And a little bit more about that. The reason that it comes off that way is exactly like you said, it doesn't help to guide that reflection with the student. How are they supposed to make meaning of that if you just, I mean, you're telling them the obvious essentially. That's probably the same feedback that their writing professor put on their assignment when they graded it. You know, this is going to improve with revision. You need to make these changes. So that last statement is kind of a tricky one. And I wanted to throw that in there just to see how well you guys would recognize that. How might students interpret some of these messages? Such as, let's just work off of that last one. How might students interpret that?
That basically they're not delivering quality enough or good enough, material.
Yeah, it's not as constructive as it should be. Whereas the other growth statement, it mentions what strategies they could try next. So again, it's all about guiding. We want to help guide them to make that meaningful connection and so that they can make next steps. But language is the vehicle of mindset. And so, again, just to reiterate, coaches can shape those internal narratives by the way that we speak to our students. All right. Moving on, let's talk a little bit about self-regulated learning, or SRL for short. Self-regulation, by definition, is that ability to plan, monitor, evaluate, as well as adapt those learning behaviors. There is another prominent psychologist. His name is Barry Zimmerman. He outlined a cyclical phase model, and that consists of having the forethought. So again, the forethought is all about the goal setting. It's about the planning as well as digging into the motivation for why they need to do something to accomplish the goal. But this is where, again, we want to try to move the mindset into the influence, excuse me, the interpretation of how a setback can impact a student. And so, again, having the forethought, let's set a goal, let's make an action plan. You can do this. That's the motivation part of it. Whereas again, the performance monitoring is, again, this is a cyclical phase. And so there are parts that you may have to back up to. It's not going to be a linear phase where it's supposed to look this way. A student may get to the performance monitoring part and realize that, okay, my goals haven't been properly outlined. I didn't plan this out as well as I needed to, but I'm motivated. I want to do this. So again, you get to the performance monitoring part where, again, this is where you hone in your focus and your attention. You're using those strategies that ultimately help you get to that goal that you've set for yourself, as well as the persistence. And so again, mentioning those setbacks. Okay, this wasn't part of the plan to fail that midterm. However, I can't go back now. The semester's halfway over. So I'm gonna have to come up with something. I'm gonna have to turn in all these assignments. I'm gonna have to get an A on that final. It's part of the performance monitoring piece, as well as the self-reflection. And that's all about evaluating those outcomes and adapting your approaches. Being flexible is a really big part of gaining those self-regulated learning behaviors. As it relates to a growth mindset, that belief only becomes meaningful when the students engage in self-regulatory behaviors. So motivation alone often does not translate into performance gains. You are not going to become a better student just by saying, right on, I love being here. I want to be here. Okay, well, you've got to put in the work now. So again, that's why it's a cycle. Again, once the student and as well as us coaches who are able to help facilitate those phases, once we become attuned to it and we are aware of where we need to go, that's where the magic happens. But I wanted to make a quick point here about, are there any connections to the theories that we mentioned in session one that sound similar to this self-regulated learning? The ability to self-regulate your behavior? What does that kind of relate to in session one that we covered already?
Self-determination theory.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yep.
What else? I believe that it also relates to self-efficacy as well. Because again, those performance gains, self-efficacy is situational. And so again, you may not be as motivated for every class that you're doing, but again, you have to find a way to be strategic about succeeding at it anyway. Whether, again, I don't have a good example of this. I actually just lost my train of thought. But again, self-efficacy is all about, again, that sense of being able to, okay, I believe that I can get this done. It sucks, but I believe that I can get this done. Whereas the self-determination is all about, again, I'm making the right choices, such as I'm studying, I'm utilizing the resources that are available to me, such as the Academic Success Center, because I need tutoring. There are many other parts of that for self-determination as well as the relatedness. Okay, let's go talk to coach. I messed up. I need to meet with my coach as soon as possible so that we can talk about this. I haven't told anybody that I failed this exam. And so I'm sure that coach knows that we can get through this. So I got to come up with a game plan. So those are some of those connections that we previously discussed that relate to the self-regulated learning piece of what we're getting here today. Could we teach self-regulated learning? What do you all think? Could we teach a student to self-regulate the way that they learn?
No,
I like
there's
that.
some controversy over that.
I think so too. I think so too. So I think the answer to that would be it depends. I gotta go full psychology on you. It depends. But again, many struggling students are not unmotivated, They simply lack that effective metacognitive and self-management strategy that's necessary for them to succeed. So again, self-regulated learning goes pretty deep. But a little bit more in depth about the metacognition portion of this is that it's central to the academic self-regulation. So many students mistakenly equate familiarity with mastery. Oh, I've seen this before. I'm good. I know how to do it. That familiarity is disguised as, again, mastery. But coaching is intended to help move students from that time spent studying into the quality of the cognitive engagement that they're getting from their education. And so again, self-regulated learners engage differently. They engage in that metacognitive monitoring as well as they evaluate whether they truly understand the material that they're receiving in these classrooms. Some of those passive learning strategies that can be overestimated, rereading. I'll highlight my notes. Maybe I'll just review my notes repeatedly until my eyes get tired and I can't look at them anymore. Those are some of those passive strategies that, again, relate to self-regulated learning. But if you're just rereading the material or you're only highlighting the key words, that doesn't really equate, again, to a quality transfer of that learning material. It doesn't. And so a more effective approach here would be to practice the retrieval. Okay, I'm going to recall a key term and how that relates to XYZ. Self-testing, elaboration, being able to explain a concept, term to someone else in a way that makes sense. A lot of times people say, break it down to me like I'm a fifth grader. Well, if you're able to do that, that actually demonstrates a really high level of understanding, is that you can break it down to the simplest terms in a way that someone who is completely unfamiliar with that material would be able to understand it. Repetition is another good one. You're good to go. You can come on in. Teaching concepts out loud, just like how we're doing here. We're covering some theoretical concepts and I'm speaking to them. So again, that is helping with my quality of learning of this material as well too. So we can talk about the coaching implications of whether we as success coaches are able to teach self-regulated learning. Success coaches can help normalize self-regulation as a learnable skill rather than evidence of how smart and intelligent the student is. We want to be able to reframe their learning style and ability in a way that reduces shame as well as defensiveness. And successful students are not necessarily born organized. They build those systems and good habits. So a couple of you mentioned some important parts that, again, relate to the coaching implications. Jessica mentioned that, no, we cannot teach self-regulated learning. You hit the nail right on the head again, but we can normalize it. Hey, there's things that you need to do. You can utilize these resources in order to enhance what you're getting in this course. So and that takes a lot of trust as well on the part of the success coach. You have to be able to build that rapport in order to get the student to trust that you're sending them in the right direction and that you want what's best for them. So again, that normalization piece is critical. But Michaela mentioned earlier about shame versus guilt? Well, again, self-regulated learning, there can be some shame and defensiveness that is associated with that. Whereas again, we mentioned a couple of different examples. I'm just not a math person. So now they go to their class Monday and Wednesday. They've got that math 10, I don't even know the freaking section number, excuse me. So many different, but they go to that math class Monday and Wednesday. They feel that they suck at math. They don't put forth any effort to get better at it. Their homework grades reflect that they aren't good at it. So there's a little bit of shame that's associated with that now. Okay, well, these kids are just smarter than me. And so again, that defensiveness can come in where I don't need help. Why are you telling me that I need tutoring? What is student disability services about? I mean, I don't have a disability. I just have trouble taking notes and I need more time to complete my exam. So there's a little bit of defensiveness when trying to make those warm handoffs to referrals that could otherwise benefit the student. So those are some of those coaching implications. We can combat this by asking helpful, reflective questions. Hey, how are you checking whether you actually know the material? Could you explain this concept without your notes? What evidence tells you that your strategy is working? Does that make sense to everyone? Thumbs up in the chat. So, self-regulation is not purely cognitive. I know that we've spent a large portion of that speaking purely to the cognitive aspect of it, but what about emotional regulation? It's a really strong influence for self-regulated learning because it impacts the persistence that students demonstrate, the attention that they put towards their academics, as well as the resistance that they display as well. So if a student is experiencing anxiety, or maybe they're a perfectionist, or they have that fear of failure, they may tend to procrastinate. They may avoid the feedback whenever they get assignments graded. They don't look at it, they don't take any of that comment from their instructor as constructive, even if they know that it would help improve their grade or allow them to successfully pass that class. They may disengage after a setback or a failure, as well as they can interpret that struggle as evidence of inadequacy. So again, the emotional regulation is a really big part of self-regulated learning because this is where we mentioned in the first session about some derailers. Well, the emotional regulation part of self-regulated learning could be a large derailer in the way that people teach and learn amongst themselves. And so some advisor moves that we could possibly practice is to encourage the implementation of being intentional. If X happens, I will do Y. We can help students create specific study plans instead of having vague, large reaching goals. We can teach reflection routines as success coaches after exams and assignments. I have plenty of students that come to me prior to an exam or a speech, and they want to practice it out. And I encourage that. Hey, I know you've got a speech coming up. Come in here and we can go right to the back where it's nice and quiet and practice it for me. And then I'll provide that feedback. But again, afterwards, we're going to reflect on it. How did you feel about that first part there? Your opening. Okay, well, the hook was great, but then you kind of rambled a little bit. So being able to reflect on that and allow them to connect the dots moving forward. We can also reinforce that help seeking is strategic, not remedial. Reinforcing that help seeking is strategic, not remedial. Because again, those services and supports are there to help. And again, help seeking is a marker of strong self-regulation. But as it pertains to a growth mindset, self-regulation answers the question of, can the student improve? And what will they actually do to improve? And so this is where that effective coaching is going to require all of this as a consideration. All right. So it would be a great disservice of me not to mention adults learning in higher education. So I'm pretty sure that many of you are familiar with Susie Reynolds and the work that she does here at Wayne State, but an adult learner is a student who is typically 25 or older, returning to education or training after a significant delay, or who do not follow that traditional path of enrolling in higher ed after high school. These individuals are typically viewed as independent and self-directed learners, which can be a little bit tricky at times. Some of the core characteristics of these adults in higher education is that they possess a wide range of life experiences to draw upon. They can have expectations of learning processes and may already have their own set pattern of learning. And this part is a little bit, it relates more to coaches, but well, actually, it relates more to instructors, but it may not be entirely necessary for us to rely on the traditional methods or activities of instruction. So sometimes adult learners don't like to play games in class. They don't really care for that. Just teach me the material that I need to know. But with that as a consideration, adult learners have experienced failure and criticism at school, which makes them anxious sometimes, and quite frankly, they may come into higher ed underconfident that they can perform here well. And so this is why the roles of a coach as a facilitator and a motivator are crucial to help boost their motivation and enhance their learning outcomes. Adult learners are human beings who need to be accepted and appreciated for their efforts and the achievements that they bring to the table. But thinking about adult learners and how they regulate their learning, are there any specific struggles that you may have noticed in your experience working with adult learners here? And feel free to pop off if you have any that you would like to share.
I say a lot of times, adult learners are just starting or just returning, so there may have been a significant amount of technological advances between when they attended or, again, if they haven't attended, to what they have to acclimate now. So getting them
Oh,
accustomed to the new systems.
Sean, you just hit on a really big one that, man, it is that is a glaring need for this population. And I actually was just working with a student recently who is newly admitted and he's now enrolled, but oh my goodness, it's like he's never operated a computer before, and his classes are all online. WTH. But those are some of the things that adult learners may be up against. And so again, as a coach, we have to be skillful in the way that we handle those deficiencies and how we try to promote, again, some dignity in the way that we coach them as well. We have to be incredibly patient and graceful in trying to, again, help them actualize their goals, but in the meantime, try to build them up to a place where, again, they can be on a much more level playing field as some of the more traditional, the younger population of students that they're going to be in class with. Because again, that can be a situation where man, that fixed mindset can be very strong in this population. I'm 65 years old and I'm working on my first bachelor's degree. That's a pretty big source of discouragement. We are almost there, folks. Success coaching artistry. This is how we move from the self-regulation to where we, as success coaches and advisors, can move in and provide the boost that the students need themselves. We're going to talk a little bit about effective praise. And then from there, we'll move into some process-oriented coaching to round us out and wrap this thing up. Thank you all for being patient and hanging in there. But what is effective praise? Praise is a simple strategy that success coaches can apply to help nurture a good rapport with their students. Simple as that. Effective praise specifically describes the positive behaviors and why they are important for being successful. So again, the differentiation there is you can praise someone all day. I love your haircut. You look great today. It's not very helpful. What is it about what I did that makes me look good today? Why is that important to me? So again, effective praise is a more strategic approach, and it depends on that intentional language that we as success coaches and advisors may use. But it helps to boost the students' motivation in learning. In reality, the student's response to a coach's praise is not always similar, but it may succeed to some students and fail with others. That's why, again, the rapport building part is a big part of it, and it's something that you're going to have to work towards progressively. But students from different backgrounds and experiences, maybe even socioeconomic classes, ability levels may respond differently to it. So you just have to be aware of the personnel that you're dealing with in order to, again, they have to be receptive to it. You can provide it all day, but if they're not receptive to it, it simply won't work. But another big part of what makes effective praise effective is that it requires active listening to the student. You have to be able to listen and hone in to what the student is telling you in order to be able to provide the thoughtful praise that, again, will encourage them to make them more strategic when you intervene with a student as a success coach. And again, this is facilitated oftentimes through process-oriented coaching. But here's a couple differences between effective praise and ineffective praise. Effective praise is going to show that genuine pleasure and concern for the person, the individual, whereas ineffective praise is going to be more impersonal. It's kind of robotic the way that it comes off of. You're so smart. You're great at math. Okay, well, there's that fixed limitation that you just placed on me. So now if I don't perform well, what will you say then? Effective praise shows the verbal and non-verbal variety. So you get some of the body language in there. Oh man, that's going to be a really important piece of it that again, you kind of have to know yourself well enough that you can convey authenticity to the person that you're giving the praise to. Whereas again, that ineffective praise is going to show that bland uniformity. You may seem a little bit reserved when you deliver that. You're not smiling because that's another big part of it too. But effective praise is going to specify the particulars of an accomplishment. So students know exactly what was performed well. Whereas the ineffective praise is going to be restricted to the global comments. That's the, you're so smart. So students are not sure of what exactly was performed. What did I do that makes me so smart? You get it? Effective praise is offered in recognition of noteworthy effort on difficult tasks, thinking strategically there. Whereas ineffective praise is going to be offered equally strongly for easy and difficult tasks. There is no differentiation between that, which again, talk about that plateau, you know, the varying level of difficulty of things that students are going to accomplish. If you're offering ineffective praise to the students when they accomplish just anything, eventually they're going to take that and it's not going to help them at all. And then the effective praise attributes success to effort, implying that similar successes can be expected in the future if they put forth that necessary effort. Ineffective praise, you can attribute the success to you got lucky or other external factors, which relates a little bit to, oh man, session 1. Someone help me out here. The locus of control. That's the external locus where if you give that ineffective praise, you may start to play into the external locus of operation for the student, whereas they're going to start thinking that the outcome of what is expected in the future is only going to be determined by that luck or that person. So let's do a quick activity. We'll run through this let's make over one praise statement here. Great job getting an A. How would that equate to an effective praise that accounts for effort, strategy, persistence, or the process? Great job getting an A. Let's remake that real fast.
Just for the fact of the matter, putting in like great job putting in all that effort and earning an A, like just acknowledging that the effort was part of it. Is that enough to make it over? I
I
don't know.
think I think that you're getting close, Margaret, but
Yeah.
let's talk more about the strategic part. Okay, if you needed a little bit of context, they got an A on a chemistry exam. What could you do? Like what kind of effective praise could you deliver to that student that just received that A on a chemistry exam, who worked really hard at it, they studied effectively, they utilized a study group? Build off of that for me to remake this.
That
And they
study
told
strategy you used for your chemistry exam worked out great.
That's exactly what we're looking for here.
yeah. Okay.
Thank
We'd
you.
have to
Thank
know
you
that
both.
that's what they did too.
Yeah, so I wanted you to be a little bit imaginative with this and kind
Okay.
of just run with it, but a little bit of
I'm not
context
very
never hurt anybody.
imaginative, Dante. I'm not.
May not be imaginative, but you are engaged and I love it. So keep that going. All right. So now let's move into the key takeaway for this training is that, okay, we understand how a growth mindset or a fixed mindset may impact a student. We understand that there are different ways that students regulate themselves and how they learn. We've understood that we, as success coaches and advisors, can deliver effective praise that encourages the student, but again, motivates them to keep striving for success. So, with that being said, we have the process-oriented coaching framework, and this is a method that can be repeated in your advising interactions with students. So you can take from this and use it over time and adapt it in a way that makes sense for the way that you coach and advise your students. But that process itself And let me know if I'm in the way of the actual material itself, because I can step aside. But number one, you have to be observant of your student. You need to be able to tell the behaviors that they're demonstrating. Um, what are some of the strategies, if they mentioned any? What are some of the strategies that they mentioned that they've used before? How are they feeling emotionally? Are they stressed out? Are they nervous, anxious? Or even better, what are some of the narratives that the student is telling you about their situation? Some example questions that you can use for yourself or adapt as you so choose. But what did your preparation look like? What did you notice while studying for this exam? Did you feel stuck anywhere? Those are some things that, again, reflecting on what you've observed from a student, those are some questions that you can ask that would lead into number two, reflect. We want to help guide the meaning making process for a student. We want to move them from the time spent studying to, okay, I understand this fully and I feel like I could teach others. I get it. Some questions that you can ask students to help guide meaning making are, what helped you succeed here? What would you repeat? What surprised you? And then lastly, we want to be able to connect students. This is making that linkage from the effort or the strategy that they used, the behaviors that they demonstrate, and accounting for the outcome that was received, whether it was win or lose for that student. You improved because you consistently practiced XYZ. So that is process-oriented coaching. And this, I will say that it's not going to come out this way in one success coaching session. It is not going to look that way. You simply can't do it. You oftentimes work within a 30-minute window with a student. You can't observe, reflect, and connect the dots all in one session. And so the reason I say that again is because the rapport that you build with this student is going to be important. You may only be able to accomplish one of these for now. Okay, I just met with this student for a success coaching session. We sat, we're developing an action plan, but I'm just observing them. What do I have here with this student? And then they come back to you. They may have some updates on how things are going, and then we reflect. Okay, let's make meaning of this. Wow, that's a lot different than what you told me last time. What helped you succeed? And then another time, we're connecting. We're continuously linking that effort, the strategy, and those behaviors that they've consistently, at this point, have exhibited. And so that's where you're able to ask them, well, you can actually say you improved because you consistently practiced, bam. To tie it all together, we have one setback scenario that we will not be able to get to, but for this activity is something that we wanted to use some growth-oriented language and deliver some effective praise to that student, as well as help reframe the setback with incremental theory involved. You all will be provided with this presentation. And so I highly encourage you. Again, this is a credentialing program, so go back and look at this on your own time and try to practice it and put it into practice with the students that you teach as well, because these things are going to come up. I'm going to stop sharing now, but again, we want to be as effective as we can in recognizing the student that we have in front of us and making the most of those success coaching sessions and meetings that we have with students. So again, thank you all for mastering your mindset. What questions do you have for me today? I love it. No questions. That sounds like everybody is taking something from this.